Structure blocks are special blocks that can help in world building but also provide a great way for you and students to showcase or submit evidence of what was made in Minecraft for assessments or assignments. Now, before we get into structure blocks, we need to understand coordinates and the X, Y, Z direction and location of things. So you'll notice in the top left corner of my screen, it says position 16, 64, 94. That is my current player position in the world. And each of those is then reflective of its location as we move around. If you don't see those numbers, you can get to it by going to your settings, and if you're on a touch device, using that 3-bar option at the top center of your screen, or if you're on a keyboard and mouse, pressing escape and then going to settings. From here, you'll scroll down in your game settings here and make sure that show coordinates is enabled. Now, let's take a look at our coordinates for a quick little lesson on XYZ directions and placement. So as I move to the right or left, that first number there is changing. That's our X. As we go up or down, that is our Y. And as we go forward or backwards, that is our Z. And every block has a coordinate of where it is in the game. So this single redstone block, hi chicken, is at location -133, 64, 113. So let's go back to our castle to now talk about structure blocks. Now structure blocks are unique. They're specialty blocks, so they're not part of our inventory. So you have to give one to yourself using a / command and type in /give @self. And as you start typing in structure block, you'll see that it starts narrowing it down, and we can hit tab to then autofill in the rest. Now, specialty blocks, depending on what mode you have, it changes what the appearance of that block is. So a structure block here for save allows you to save to memory or even export to use in another Minecraft world. You can then load what you saved. So after saving, this allows you to load and then even rotate that saved structure. And then you have corner blocks, which are great to allow you for easier structure identification in sizing between save and corner structure blocks. Hey, wandering trader in the llamas. So let's use our castle here, and I'm in the Minecraft Education Build Challenge Build a Moat world. And so this is a great one where maybe you want to build a moat or use this castle in another build. So I'm going to place a castle block, and you'll see that there's this white bounding box frame that goes around it. And when I right-click or select the place again on that structure block, it opens up the menu here where we can see this beautiful preview, and we can rotate it to see all the different pieces of it. But this is a 5x5 cube space. Now, that mode that I talked about, we have our different ones. It will return back to these as we go through this tutorial. But here we see our X, Y, and Z coordinate. And you'll notice that color identification for our X being the red, our Y being the green line, and our blue being this blue line or our blue axis here. So as I change this from a 5x5x5, and let's make that 15, you'll see that automatically that preview changes and adjusts, and I see that this is now 15 blocks long. And the same thing for our Y. This now goes 15 blocks tall, and let's make our Z 15 as well. You'll notice that we see the entire castle, but there's a little extra over here on the side and even above. So if we adjust our X, and every capture that you make will need to be unique and adjusted depending on what it is that you're trying to capture here. So I'm going to make that 12 and 12, and I see that that nicely captures everything here. But you'll notice that this offset column, this is where we then have the offset that the green axis, the vertical here, is 12 blocks. However, we are including one below that structure block. That's why we see a -1. So if I were to make that -10, we now have 10 blocks below the structure block and 2 blocks above it. So we still have a total of 12, but 10 of them are below it. And this is a great way to kind of preview and check out that we have some water and some sand and coal in here. And so as you play and adjust with your different coordinates here, you'll be able to get exactly what you're after. And structure blocks are really great even to be able to make a model. Let's say you're building a model of a castle and you wanted a cross-section of it, or an animal or a plant cell. This is a great way to build something and then build it in full, but then only get a cross-section to use in a presentation or to share it later on. So you can adjust this, and I'm going to make this full 12 again to capture the whole castle. You can adjust the different settings in here to include entities or different things, but here's where you can have that bounding box be shown, those frames. And of course, we need to give it a name. So I'm going to call this castle, and I'm going to save it. Now, that is saved in the game, where I would be able to then use our structure block, and let's say I want to duplicate that castle, and it's just making a copy of it in that moment. So if you change things in the original castle, it won't duplicate it in your new spot. But I'm going to place another structure block in this open space. I'm going to open it up, but instead of saying save, I'm going to use load. And from here, I can type in that exact name, that title that I gave, castle, and when I select off of it, it will then identify that space at 12 by 12 by 15 space here. And remember, I put that structure block on the back side of that castle, but I want my two castles to face each other. So when you load a structure, you also have the ability to rotate. And I want to have this be rotated 180 degrees here. So a lot of math, a lot of different application and customization to this. So then I can select load, and I have my castle duplicated over here. So it's exactly what it is in the original spot, but now duplicated here. Any changes I make to the original, it won't copy over to the new location though. Now, let's say that I want to save our castle here and put it in another world. I have the ability, still in save, and just select export. From here, I have the ability to save my castle, and you can see that I've done this a few times with some other builds, and I can save that. And then when I go to use this in another world, let's say I go back to a spot here, and let's say I want to place another castle. In this spot, I would be able to go to save, load, and import. And again, I can be able to import what I have here, and let's have our castle just load up, and because I didn't rotate it, it's going to be exactly in the same direction that I see from the original. So you can import from other exports. Now, we talked about that corner option here, and I have my tree then with a corner block already placed up in the sky, but in here I have my tree, I see a chicken, I see a bee and a pig and a pen there, but I'm going to place my save block right here in my corner block. I'm going to make sure that I have a title here. I'm going to call this tree, and all I did in here, I'll retitle it tree. So all you have to do is type in tree. It autofills and the rest. So when I go to my save block, not open up my inventory. When I go back to my save block, and I just need to type in tree. This is where we have the ability to use detect. When I select detect, it's going to identify that tree structure block that's there, and it pulled in everything. So I didn't have to adjust anything in my XYZ column or cells here. Now, with this, if I wanted to include entities, I have my pig. If there was a bee flying around, I could toggle that on or off to be able to include those mobs or entities. But all of these things are things that you can use to make your builds a lot more fun to copy, duplicate, and use elsewhere. Now, when we talked about being able to export, there is another option there where we could go down to 3D export. And when you 3D export, we can export this as a GLB file. And this is a file type that is used in 3D viewers and in even 3D printers. So when I select export, it's going to then give me the option to then save. And then I can choose where I want to save it. I already have done this once, but I'm going to call this castle and hit save. And it'll generate that. So now, if I were to go to another application here and I open it up. When I open up a GLB file in Windows, there's an application called 3D Viewer, and we can then preview this. But what's also great is that you can even open up in PowerPoint and import that same file for a presentation. If you're doing a presentation on what you built and want to showcase that model, you can import that GLB file into PowerPoint and then be able to manipulate it to look around. You can adjust the scale, the size of it in here for the preview of it. But you can even add in animations where it's going to be able to rotate and move around. And then, as I shared about that 3D viewer, you can take that same file and send it to 3D printers where I did even 3D print my little castle, and I can see my little structure block and the doorways here. So, of course, this is a very small scale. I could always expand it, but have a lot of fun as you use our structure block in Minecraft education to share and show evidence of what you've built in many creative fun ways. Enjoy!
This world is so big, I lost my house. Where's my house?
Please, I found a